everybody, and welcome back to DrewTube. And I see Patty has already joined us. I know this was a late notice. I was just checking in, see who's out there tonight. No big deal. If you didn't catch the live show, I apologize, but you can always watch it later. And yes, Patty, that's I want to know where the gold at is. Obviously, a shout out to that awesome YouTube video, that photo I put up of the Mobile Leprechaun. And since St. Patrick's Day, it was just the other day, I wanted to wish everybody a happy belated St. Patrick's Day if you are Irish or not. It looks like I got an Irish flag back there. There's Pat Falcon. But actually, that's my green screen, which brings me to the fact that I'm on my phone, but I can see the comments pretty well. Metaphysical Logic, how are you? Thanks for checking in. My hair's all jacked up. I'm wearing a hat or something I forgot about. See if anybody else pops on. I did find out that Noreen's show, if anybody's watching, was going to watch her show that was going to be for today. She's having computer problems. She has to get a whole new hard drive or something for her setup. That's why she was not able to do her show over on Paranormal Zone TV with Valerie, the forensic astrologist. So that show's getting rescheduled. I'm not for sure when. I think it's 3 weeks, but she has to get a whole new setup because something really wrong with our computer, which so hopefully whatever they fix will straighten out those issues. You're bored, you're working AF working a limo job. Oh, after hour working on a limo job. Cool. You're driving the limo? Taxation beat theft. How are you up there in New York? Hey Raymond. I'm not sure where we're going. You can go anywhere you want. Hey Paprika. You got the word out. Parked and waiting for parked and waiting for them to finish up. What city are you in? And Nikki B, let me know if you're out there. Definitely want to when I get my laptop and get my green screen back, maybe even before. Who am I rooting for in March Madness? That's a good question. Right there, Houston. Yes, my alma mater is in the tournament. We're playing Illinois Sunday. Tomorrow we're playing Illinois. I think 2 or 2:30 Central Time. So I'm excited about that. I think we're a 4-point favorite, so that's definitely who I'm rooting for. Past that, I don't care. I want to get all the way back to the Final Four. U of H, go Cougs. Yeah, I'm really excited about tomorrow's game. I hope we win. It's going to be really close. Hopefully close. Yeah, five slam a jamma. Remember those days. Clyde the Glide, Akeem. You know, I heard a not a flattering story about Akeem not too long ago. Guy I know pretty well got in an elevator with him and just said, "Hey, Akeem, how you doing?" Just trying to talk to him. He was with another guy. I mean, Akeem didn't even respond to him. I mean, didn't even acknowledge the dude was there and just said hello to the guy. That's brutal. I hate to say that about an ex-Coug, but not a good report on Akeem. I've met Kai Drexler a couple times, and he's the nicest guy in the world. He's super great. Brant, Drew, have you seen the Batman? No, I haven't seen the Batman yet. With the Riddler Zodiac, did you? Akeem the Dream's a great player. He just dissed my friend the day in the elevator. No, but I haven't seen the movie. Obviously, there's a lot of Zodiac stuff going on in the movie. I think the guy that wrote that or whatever, he admitted it. Yeah, he took that from the Zodiac, the cipher thing and all that, and the logo. He definitely stole that from the Zodiac, but it's not like anybody can sue him for using it because it's out there. Clyde was the man. Super nice. I think his mom still owns a barbecue place over by U of H. I haven't been over there in a while. I think it's just still there. It's a pretty good restaurant. Knicks lost to them in '94, so not a fan. Yeah, they put a bit in there. So yeah, all things on the Zodiac front. I've been talking to Paul Avery's daughter, Kristen, which is interesting. She is super nice, super funny. Has a great sense of humor. I mean, what would you expect from Paul Avery's daughter, nonetheless? And she has a really humorous outlook on her dad and his, prone to drinking and sometimes drugs. And I'll share one is, or maybe two, because it was so cool talking to Kristen and Avery. And she sent me a link to the Paul Avery houseboat video, the one from the news channel. It was they took pretty soon after the Paul Avery got the Zodiac Halloween card, and she asked me, I'd seen it. I said, yeah, I've seen it. Of course, I know a lot about your father, so of course I knew about it. And I said, in that video, he just doesn't seem scared. The Zodiac directly threatened him in a correspondence that the Zodiac sent directly to Paul Avery. And I said, he just seems so calm. I mean, obviously, after he got that, he went and got a gun permit. And she said, yeah, he's lucky he didn't shoot himself, because this guy didn't even know how to shoot a gun. She thought that was funny. And I just said, well, why was he so calm? Like he seemed to have no fear that the Zodiac was coming for him. And she said, he was probably just stoned. I was like, okay, she knows her father pretty well. Um, yeah, now that you mentioned that, Patty, I'm gonna have to tell the story about the grandson, but hopefully everybody's on. So yeah, the grandson story is great. That's fantastic. So anyway, in this film, The Zodiac, is a lot of people that follow that. Uh, the David Fincher film, her father, Paul Avery, the San Francisco Chronicle news reporter, was played by actor Robert Downey Jr. And as we know, Robert Downey Jr. is also Iron Man in the Marvel series in the Iron Man movies. So anyway, Paul's daughter likes to say that what is it? She says that Robert Downey Jr. is her father and that Iron Man's her grandfather, something like that. But it was just kind of an inside joke. And, her grandson got confused with this whole thing about Robert Downey Jr., who plays Iron Man, actually playing his grandfather. So he somehow got everything all screwed up and he started believing that his father was Zodiac. So he started telling all his little friends, hey, my dad was Zodiac. And it hit her one day that maybe he misunderstood this all. So apparently her poor grandson went around for a couple of years telling his friends that his dad, his grandfather, his grandpa, he called him Papa, was Zodiac. And then she finally straightened him out and said, no. He was the newspaper reporter and he was played in a movie by Robert Downey Jr., who played Iron Man. So I think he was finally old enough to straighten it out, but it got all confusing for her poor grandson. So I thought that was pretty funny. No, I wish she did. I wish she did. She doesn't really have hardly anything at all of his. When he died, of course, he was married to Margot St. James on Orcas Island in Washington, and she's trying to get some of his stuff. She told me that Margot St. James married Paul. I mean, I think they liked each other. I think maybe Paul was in love or not, but the way she tells me is that Margot just wanted his health insurance or something. Uh, Even though she was inheriting that property, I think on Orcas Island that she had in her family in a house, so that has some value to it. But at the time she married Paul Avery, she was going after his health insurance or something. It's pretty funny. And another thing she told me is when they had the memorial service for her dad out in the San Francisco Bay. They went out on a boat to spread his ashes in the bay. So she took half of the ashes. I think it was her and Margot. Her other sister wasn't there. Her older sister didn't go to the memorial. She was too upset to go, but Kristen was there. And they were on a boat, put half of Paul's ashes out in the San Francisco Bay, and then they came back and they had like they had a meal and everything that was being catered and stuff. And a lady was going around, and Chris didn't even know this was going to happen, but she had the other half of Paul's ashes in these little boxes. And she said she thought they might be 26 boxes because Paul Avery really was obsessed with the number 26, and he felt it was really lucky. So this lady was going around with these little tiny boxes. She was going to pass out. So I guess the small group that was there for the memorial for Paul Avery was going to be able to take one box of his ashes and spread it however they wanted, or take them home, or she doesn't know. But anyway, it was really windy that day, and the ashes started blowing out of the boxes into people's food and stuff. She said it was just comical. She said it was really funny, and that Paul probably would have found it funny that his his ashes were going all over people's food and stuff. So that was another pretty funny story. Um, of many she told me. So I know, but she doesn't have any of the original letters or anything like that. Unfortunately, I wish she did. She remembers him making copies of the Halloween card and bringing them home. She actually lived with Paul every summer on the houseboat from 1970 all the way through 80, however long he lived on the houseboat. And she said that Robert Downey Jr. did a perfect job playing her dad. Other than they made the houseboat seem really gloomy. She said it was never that gloomy. He was never really depressed in there. She said, other than that, did a great job of playing her dad. And she said, people ask me if we made money from that movie or something by him playing our dad. She goes, I didn't make a penny. Are you kidding me? Uh, I think he had like a small pension or something, and then it was going to go to her kids. She didn't even get that, so it's pretty bad. But she has a great attitude about it all, and really funny. But no, she doesn't have anything. Or she did. No, she never said why he liked 26. She doesn't even know. She just said he was obsessed with that number, thought it was lucky. Everything kind of had to add up to 26, which is weird with all things zodiac. I mean, I don't know, the number six doesn't come up with the zodiac correspondence at all that I know of, other than the 13-hole punch card times two. I would have to stretch, but I haven't seen that anywhere. Still looking for the leprechaun. Well, you saw the that video on YouTube where those radio DJs went down to the Crichton area of Mobile to find the leprechaun. I mean, this was, of course, years later after that leprechaun video went viral. And so I think they just went around asking people that lived really close. I think they found the area where the footage was filmed of the leprechaun, and they ran into some people, and I think they found one guy that might have been in the video, or somebody told the radio guys, "Hey, we know who the leprechaun was," or the guy pretending to be the leprechaun. And it was this little black gentleman who was I don't know the correct term, but he goes by Midget Sean, who's literally, I don't know if he's a dwarf or a midget or the difference, but he looks like a dwarf, but he goes by the name Midget Sean, and he tracks down Midget Sean somewhere, and Midget Sean basically confesses to being the leprechaun that was seen that day up in the tree. And the guys that were doing it aren't totally sure Midget Sean's telling the truth because there's no hard evidence that he was the leprechaun. He might just be getting in on this, but he confesses to being the actual leprechaun down in Crichton, in Mobile, Alabama. So that's definitely worth a look. That's definitely worth a look. So maybe they found him, Corey. If it's Midget Sean, they did find the leprechaun. And I'm kind of skeptical, but he probably could have climbed up that tree, and maybe they dug it up for the gold. But anyway, yeah, anything that comes up with Avery's daughter. So anyway, for some of the Zodiac stuff, of course, if you've seen the other channel, that's Don Cheney's DDR 214 exit papers from the military, and it confirms what his height 7'2", which means 72 inches. Those 7 and the 2 there, 72 inches tall means you're how tall? 6 feet. So don't listen to any internet rumors of 6'4". You're 6 feet tall. Here's the absolute proof of it, and some other interesting stuff in here that we're still parsing through. But 6 feet tall, just like I said. Um, just like Norma Gordon said, 6 feet tall. She was right on the money. He was 6 feet tall. So at least got to put that to rest finally with, road trip. Definitely a road trip. I'm just, that's funny. Yeah. I'm just here to help out. Don't be afraid, man. Don't be afraid. He's directing traffic. I don't know. He's in there. He looks, I don't know. I think he's probably, I don't know. It's hard to tell in the video, but they talked to him out in the parking lot. I know, of course, that's not a real, doesn't seem like a safe neighborhood. His signature's on it, Captain J. It's slanted hard right, pretty hard to the right. It's not crazy, anything jumping out. I don't know if I can get this in front of the camera. See it on top? It's kind of hard to tell. Like this. Right there. If you can screenshot this. Pretty hard slant. But it's there, just the signature. Just the signature. But there's some other pretty good stuff on here. It's still vetting through it, but not an easy document to get. Not an easy one. A lot of work. Find the right people that can find it. It's hard if you don't have certain information. You cannot get these, especially from the 50s, not easy. I mean, um, depending what channel you go through. And plus, if you go the regular route, it would take months and months and months and months. Very, very difficult. Yeah, the True Mobile. Oh man, we definitely get down to Bama and go find Midget Sean and get the truth. That's what I want to know. Other than where the gold's at, was Midget Sean actually the Mobile Leprechaun? So yeah, that's cool. Um, Going to be doing a DB Cooper show on the 30th. What's the name of that show? I can't even remember the name of the show I'm doing on DB Cooper on the 30th. Midnight something, but I'll put up something on it. It looks like a pretty good show. I'm not real familiar with it, but it should be good. But he says, have you heard of the chimney sweep company dwarf on a pole? They replaced the dwarf periodically. No. Hey, Tyler. I have not heard of that. Not heard of that at all. I do want to take a road trip, though. Go find him. I haven't been there in a long time. But yeah, the Batman movie looks good. I haven't been to a movie forever. Yes, Midnight at the Oasis. Get that camel to bed. That's pretty funny. So let's see what else is on here. Air Force. Aim high, Air Force. Lackland Air Force Base. And I saw somewhere where they thought that the wing walkers came from Lackland, but then I see something else that said they were all over the West Coast. They were shipped to West Coast Air Force bases. The wing walker that Zodiac wore at Lake Berryessa. Thought that was interesting. Another Zodiac thing I thought about. When they broke the 340, the three guys, of course, Zodiac was saying that was not me on the TV show. And, he wanted to make sure that people didn't think it was him. Of course, that turned out to be the middle patient or whatever. If, How did the Zodiac, would he have found out somehow that they were looking that hard at Arthur Lee Allen, even starting? I mean, maybe not immediately in July of 71 when he was brought forward, but in 72, 73, 74, if you consider the Exorcist letter to be authentic, and also the Badlands card, which was 1974 when that came out. I mean, I believe that's authentic, and the Exorcist, that's widely to believe authentic. So that means the Zodiac was still writing in 74. Don't you think if he's that tuned in to what's going on and maybe has any access to police stuff that Arthur Lee Allen's name wasn't slipped out somewhere? I mean, uh, come on, he had to have known, and if he did, why wouldn't he write a letter, do something, and say, "Hey, I'm not the bald guy at 32 Fresno Street. That's not me. That's not the Zodiac." Unless it was a duo going on, though, who I like, it's the duo. Why wouldn't the Zodiac step in and say that's not me if he knew anything about Allen being talked about? Because I just don't think that was some highly guarded secret. I really don't. Of course, Spinelli found out about it somehow. I mean, that was later. That was 1990. But are you telling me that the Zodiac had no clue that the police all thought they had a great suspect in Arthur Lee Allen, and he never says a word about it? Like he did with the Jim Dunbar show where he put in the cipher. Of course, it took him 51 years to break it. But what if if they had broke it sooner? He would have been. He's basically saying that he wanted to make sure people knew that wasn't him calling into the Jim Dunbar show. So why, if he's still out there and he wasn't Alan Cheney or that combo, why wouldn't he say, "I'm not the bald guy on 32 Fresno Street," or however he described him? He never would call people by name, but just pointing out. That's not me. I mean, of course, people would say, well, of course they want him to think that so he won't get caught. But that's not the way the Zodiac worked. Too much ego, too much work, too much of a masterwork to have it all attributed to Arthur Lee Allen. Come on. Come on. He's going to know that name was being kicked around. He just is. That's it's just the more I think about it, the more the sense it makes. Speaking of DB Cooper, why do you think the money was left behind? Man, you should be listening to some of these conversations I've been having with Nicholas Broughton, which I want to have on maybe even tomorrow night. If you're out there, Nikki, reach out. I'll have Nikki on. We'll talk about that. We'll do that. If Nikki's available tomorrow night, I'll have him on because we talk about all things money lately. I don't know why it was left behind, but I know one thing: that money did not get there by natural means. That money was planted, no doubt about it. Three stacks on top of each other. That money was planted on the Tina bar. There's no doubt. I don't know why it was. I mean, my theory is kind of, somebody, it was a payment to somebody that maybe helped Cooper get out, and they found out the money was, had serial numbers. But then you think, why wouldn't they just burn it or get rid of another? Why would they just quickly bury it? I don't know, but it was planted there, and who knows? Good question. Oh yeah, good question. Wait, hold on, Patty, and then I'm going to get to Sobek's question. I've always wondered, maybe the FBI planted the money. Could have been. Could have been. What do you think of Darren announcing the Cooper Vortex is winding down and pretty much done? He didn't say it was totally done, and he said if somebody new came up that was interesting that he wanted to interview, he would just do another show. So he did say it's winding down because he's having trouble finding more guests. I mean, that's, he was just pretty blunt and honest about that. I know Darren's starting a new uh what is the name? I can't even remember. See, I'm too tired, but Darren's starting a new podcast about, he's just interviewing people, nothing DB Cooper related. And the first show is out where he interviews Chris Williamson, who did the podcast on Ted Braden, which was fantastic. Chris did a great job, and he was the first guest on Darren Schaefer's new podcast. So somebody look that up. I don't know why I can't think of it. He just started his Instagram page. I was the third person to follow their Instagram page for the new Darren Schaefer podcast after Russell Colbert and Darren Schaefer, who do that together. So I'm technically the first, I think. Yeah, the Book of Darren. Thank you, Patty. God, I can't think. Yes, the Book of Darren. That is Darren Schaefer's new podcast, which should be great. But yeah, I don't want to see the Cooper Vortex go away because that is huge, and I love it, of course. And that's the first podcast I really did, was the Cooper Vortex. But before I had a book on Ted Braden, I had a theory about Ted Braden, knew it pretty well, and I reached out to Darren, didn't know him, and said, "Hey, I like this guy, Stevie Cooper, blah blah blah." And he had me on the show. We did, I think, a 2 hour show, the first Cooper Vortex I did, and that was fantastic. So Darren had done not a whole lot of shows before I did my first one, but he did quite a few after. I don't know, remember how many episodes, but he's had almost any DB Cooper author I can think of, every theory out there done. I mean, Barb Dayton, Nikki B with James Klansnick, you name it. Richard Floyd McCoy, uh, everyone you can think of, every suspect under the sun and every theory under the sun. So Darren does the last Cooper Vortex show. I can't remember who this podcaster interviewed Darren on his own show, the Cooper Vortex, and there was a lot of questions from the DB Cooper Facebook page. This run by Eric Olis, and this guy that interviewed Darren Schaefer asked them, "What questions do you want me to ask Darren Schaefer on the show? Because I'm going to interview him on his own show." And of course, a lot of them said, "Well, who does he think Cooper was?" or blah blah blah. And the question got phrased to Darren like, because Darren's always like, he tries to stay pretty impartial about who DB Cooper was, but the question posed to him was, if I had to put a gun to your head and you had to tell me who you thought DB Cooper was, tell me who you think it is. I mean, even if no matter what. And he said Ted Braden. So that was huge. I mean, that was huge for me, and that just came full circle for Darren to say that is huge, because that's where it all started for me. Ted Braden is my suspect, and Darren has seen him all. He's friends with other people too that write DB Cooper books with other DB Cooper theories, and he lands on my suspect with that question. If we had to put a gun to your head, who would you say DB Cooper was? And he said Ted B. Braden. Didn't say Richard McCoy. He didn't say any of these other guys. Didn't say Robert Rackstraw, um, Kenny Christensen, none of these other guys. And he's heard all the shows, all the research. He's a huge fan. Has every DB Cooper book ever written. And he said Ted Braden. Thanks, Darren. I appreciate it. No, I didn't pay him any money to say it either. So that was full circle. So thanks, man. I will. I won't take all the credit for that, but I'll take most of it for you. My work on Ted. So can Ted B. Braden be tied to that area at any time of the hijacking? Witness receipts, anything like that? No. But I can tell you there could be something going on behind the scenes as far as a witness, but I don't want to get too far ahead on that, but something could be going on. No, other than Ted Braden at the time worked for Consolidated Freightways that was based in Portland at the time. So other than that, no. But none of the suspects can be placed on, can be put on the plane. And I admit I cannot put Ted Braden on the plane, but no one else can put their suspect on a plane. I just have a lot of heavy circumstantial evidence for Braden. And one thing I would say is kind of an insider info deal, which is hard to prove, but I can kind of prove it. Certain people have even told how I got some information. It took me 2 years to get about Braden. So I'm comfortable that Ted Braden was DB Cooper, but no, I can't prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I wish I could, but I think Ted Braden was DB Cooper. Braden is definitely the suspect that makes the most logical sense with the evidence we have. I agree. I mean, Braden had it all. He's a little shorter than the height descriptions, but how are you going to get someone's height right from a sitting position? You're just not going to do it. I mean, it's difficult. It's very difficult. Of course, Bill Mitchell, who had the most relaxed view, sat right across from Cooper. And remember, during all that, Bill Mitchell stayed in the back of the plane when everyone else moved forward because Bill Mitchell had some of his college papers out. He wanted to study a little bit. So he never moved up when they told everybody else you could move up to the front of the plane or where it's more comfortable, you could stretch out. And Bill Mitchell stayed in the back. So he was by Cooper the whole time. And he had no idea the plane was being hijacked. And he was jealous of DB Cooper because the stewardess were flirting with him, or that's what he thought. They were fawning all over him because he didn't know he was hijacking the plane. That's why they were paying so much attention to him. But Bill Mitchell said Cooper was 5'9", Braden was 5'8". So really small discrepancy there. And I put a lot of weight behind Bill Mitchell's witness. I appreciate it. Yeah, Cheney. And then this helps because we know what his height is. So don't have to listen to internet rumor anymore. It's good to have a document that shows definitively someone's height, which is a military record like this, which isn't easy to get, but work to get it to definitively prove what someone's height is. Because I think I agree. If a Zodiac suspect was 6'2" or 5'8", you're really pushing it on the low side, especially with the Berryessa suspect, which Cecilia Shepard said was 6 feet, 2 inches 2 inches taller than Deputy Dave Collins when he stood exactly where the Zodiac did. Brian Hartnell said six. He said 5'10" to 6 feet for height for Zodiac. And remember, they're seeing him during the daylight. We're not talking about teenagers from across the street looking through a window. We're talking about daylight with the Zodiac, and they're at 6 feet. And of course, Hartnell said it's hard for him to judge because he was 6'7". Everything's down, but Cecilia, fortunately, I think gave the most accurate height description of Zodiac at 6 feet because it's daylight. She had someone standing there. He was smart. Dave Collins was smart to stand there and say, "I'm 5'10". I'm going to stand where he was, by where Cecilia was, and said, how tall do you think he was?" And she said, "About 2 inches taller than you." That's 6 feet. So that's important, very important. But 5'8" or 6'2" for Zodiac, or lower than 5'8". Larry Kane was probably barely 5'8". Despite the fact he had a thick Brooklyn accent. Just bad suspect. Braden did. He was one of the only suspects with the training and physical conditioning to pull it off. And remember that's important when you talk about physical conditioning to pull it off for a middle-aged man, because everybody that witnessed to DB Cooper said he was middle-aged. All of them did. Mid-40s was the dead center age they thought he was. Braden was 43, almost 44 during the Cooper skyjacking. So for a middle-aged man, yeah, Braden was very fit. He did 150 push-ups every morning on a flat board he'd pull out. He was very self-conscious about his physical condition for a guy in his 40s, and to be able to have the physical ability to jump out of a 727 in your mid 40s. Braden was one of the only people that could have done that. And over in Vietnam, he was one of the older ones. Even in special forces, where they were, the average age of the fighting guy in Vietnam was 19, like the song goes. But in special forces, it was a little older because you had more training, probably around 24, 23, 24 years old. So Braden was already in his 30s over in Vietnam. So he was definitely one of the older guys that was doing all that crazy stuff. But was there other guys at MacBee-Sarg that could have pulled off that jump? Yes, definitely. I mean, these guys were the elite of special forces. They were the Black Ops unit. They were all trained to jump at night under terrible, heavy, conditions. They were hunted as soon as they hit the ground. So I'm sure there was about 11, 12, 1100, 1200 guys in SOG from 65 up to like 1972, something like that. And I'm sure there was others that could have pulled off the Cooper jump too. But the fact is that all the elite guys and anyone that cared to comment on it said Ted Braden was Cooper. So why did they do that when there could have been another one amongst them that had the ability? Because some of them knew they had inside information. That's what I believe. They had inside stuff. Wow, I didn't hear that. What did you say? You heard Martha Ray Maggie. I don't know who that is. Spent 6 months out of the year with Special Forces team. She probably knew Ted. If she was with SOG, well, I don't know. SOG was top secret in Vietnam. I mean, no one knew about it unless you were in it, basically. I mean, and he was a SOG the whole time. He was never in Vietnam. He was only MACV SOG, which was highly classified stuff, and no one knew about it. I mean, other than the guys in it, no one really knew about it. It was really top secret. So I don't know. Did Bill Mitchell ever rule out suspects in or out based on their looks? I know that Bill Mitchell saw a photo of Dwayne Weber, who I don't think is a good suspect. I never did. Of course, Dwayne Weber's wife, Joe Weber, brought him forward as a suspect, said that he confessed to her on his deathbed. And at one point, he showed her a ticket to Flight 305, which, of course, she can't find the ticket. And Joe was a real character. I never had any correspondence with her, but I know people that did. And she's the type of person that would like call you all day if she had your phone number. She would email you at all times of the night, convinced that Dwayne was DB Cooper and this kind of stuff. But I do know that Bill Mitchell saw a photograph of Dwayne Weber and made the comment that he would never have missed those ears, talking about how big Dwayne Weber's ears were, because Bill Mitchell was looking to pick DB Cooper apart because he was jealous. He's like, I'm this 21-year-old, 6'2" college student, and these two nice looking flight attendants are fawning over this middle-aged guy. Why aren't they looking at me? So that's when Bill Mitchell made remembered that DB Cooper had this flap of skin under his neck. I think I'm getting one. I'm middle-aged, but called it a turkey neck, that like this, like that extra flap of skin. And he remembered that feature and told the FBI about it that day, and they wrote it down on a 302 document that said sagging chin. And he remembered the two things distinctively about Cooper. He said, one, he remembered him spilling a drink on the flight, and he remembered the sagging chin. But he did say that about Weber's ears. So that's, the people that like Richard Floyd McCoy, and those are the only people that really argue with me lately. And I don't get a whole lot, but there was a guy maybe a week or two ago. He was arguing again with Richard Floyd McCoy. Has to be DB Cooper. He looks so much like the sketch. I'm sorry. I mean, I am a little biased. I'm going to admit I am biased. Okay, I am. But Richard Floyd McCoy looks nothing like any of the DB Cooper sketches. I mean, zero. The number one overriding feature that people remembered about Cooper that were on the flight, and I know witness descriptions get screwed up and all this kind of thing, but there is one overriding thing that they said that they would remember about Cooper, or the man that was there that hijacked the plane. They said that he was swarthy. He had dark skin. And they said he was still Caucasian, but he had dark skin. Like maybe one man thought maybe he had some Native American ancestry in him, but they all said swarthy, which means your skin is very dark. And Richard McCoy he was as white as his paper. I mean, and then somebody, of course, they'll argue with you all day long. Well, he had makeup on. And you think that Tina Mucklow would have noticed if DB Cooper had makeup on, sitting by him for 2.5 hours, would not have noticed makeup on the guy? Come on, really? And, McCoy did look a little, McCoy was 28 at the time, or 27. So because I know Rackstraw was pretty young too. I think Rackstraw was 27 at the time and McCoy was 28. And, but yeah, I will grant that Richard Floyd McCoy looks older than 28, but just by the concept of what he knew and how he spoke, I think Tina Mucklow would have picked up on the fact that he was younger, even if he looked a little older, just by the way he acted and his vocabulary and things like that. There's it's just a no-go for me with McCoy. I mean, yeah, I like Braden, but, and I can't say 100% it wasn't Richard Floyd McCoy, but man, those people will argue with you. It's like they think they're going to convince me. They're not going to convince me because I know more about their suspect than they do. So if you're going to convince me that it's Richard Floyd McCoy and not Ted Braden, you better know more about Richard Floyd McCoy than I do. And they don't. Not one of them. Not one of them knows more about. I know more about Richard Floyd McCoy than they will ever know. So it's insane that they try to argue with me. But going back to Dwayne Weber, because I love that question, uh, and Bill Mitchell saying about his big ears. Well, McCoy had huge ears. I mean, he had big. They called him Dumbo in high school. He hated it. Uh, his FBI wanted poster when he got caught and when he broke out of jail for his hijacking. The FBI wanted poster said had used the phrase has large protruding ears. Okay, I mean, he even put it on his wanted poster. So how would Bill Mitchell miss those ears? He's not going to. He's just not that day. He would have remembered because he was looking to pick Cooper apart. You know, this guy told me, well, he had a hat on or some band or some deal, or I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, you're totally the ears totally roll McCoy out. Yes, you're right, Patty. And what else rolls him out is his North Carolina accent. Everyone that knew him knew he had a heavy North Carolina accent. He was raised in rural North Carolina outside of Raleigh, and he actually went to Broughton High School. Of course, I told Nikki that. I thought it was funny because that's his last name. But Richard Floyd McCoy went to Broughton High School. These McCoy people don't even know that because they don't know shit about him. But he had a thick, rural North Carolina accent. I can't even speak, but he did. He had a rural accent and he had a lisp. He had a really discernible lisp that he never lost because that flap of skin that connects your tongue to the bottom of your mouth got cut on him, and he had to have it removed because it was too taut. It was that flap of skin under his tongue was too taut. It was, you know, so it was affecting him. So they just removed it. So after that, he had a lisp, and nobody remembered that about Tina Cooper. I mean, Richard Floyd McCoy, especially Tina Mucklow, that spent the most time with DB Cooper. So that's just too many things. There's so many things going against him. What's up, Ross? McCoy is the worst. He's terrible. Yeah, hey, Ross, did you? I mean, you saw that Facebook group, that new FBI. Was that a new FBI document drop that had more on McCoy about how they totally ruled him out? I think that's new, or somebody said it was new, and they totally ruled him out. I mean, you know, I could go FBI conspiracy all day long, but I don't know. I just people love to argue. I mean, it's just funny they think they're going to convince me that I'm wrong and they're right when they don't know more about their guy than I do. Yeah, I will. Bible group. Where did I see you? You were on another channel. I was watching a live chat the other day. Or you maybe left a comment. I think I saw you over in maybe Ned's comment section. Yeah, I'm gonna just start doing more. I'll definitely start doing more. I got to get a new laptop. I got busy at work, but I will for sure. Yeah, Ross, what's going on with the Bates video? I'm really looking forward to that, and I don't know if you're going to weigh in if you think that Bates was a Zodiac crime or not, but maybe it'll help everybody focus more on if it is or not. But yeah, man, your last film was awesome. We assume you're putting the finishing touches on that. I lean against Bates pretty hard now. I'd say maybe I'm even less than 10%. That's a Zodiac crime. I don't even think he did it. I don't even think he wrote any of those letters. I mean, despite the fact that the Riverside PD can they totally butchered that press release about the hoax on the letters, which I don't understand, but I heavily lean against it. Coming soon, good. I'm looking forward to that big time. Oh, I don't know. Did you see the other video, Ross, where I said Paul Avery's daughter? You know, I asked Paul Avery's daughter about her dad's suspect, and I thought it was a merchant marine. I know I'm not confusing it with Tarbox, but I cannot find wherever I read that wherever that was that I read about it the first time about Paul Avery having his own Zodiac suspect. I cannot find it, but I asked Paul Avery's daughter about it, and I don't know if she was conflating with Sherry Joe Bates' Riverside murder or not, but she said her dad thought that a janitor at I think she said a college, that he thought a janitor at a college was Zodiac because someone had the janitor had marked the Zodiac cross circle logo into a desk. So obviously that didn't happen at Riverside. It was the desktop poem with all, you know, with the thread in it, but there was no cross circle logo, of course. But I don't know if she was conflating that with Riverside or that's what Paul believed. But she said that her dad thought the Zodiac was a janitor and it had scrawled cut the Zodiac logo into a desk or something. So I don't know. That's just all she could remember. And that was in Southern California. And so I don't know if she was getting confused with Riverside or not. I mean, she kind of knows the case. She saw the movie, of course, because her dad's portrayed in it, but she didn't know a whole lot more about her dad's suspect than that. Oh, cool. Yeah, definitely send that. And if that logo turns up, we can definitely connect it back to Paul Avery. And of course, that would be really cool. But that's all she knew about her dad's suspect. And I know that Paul Avery and Duffy Jennings used to go around trying to get handwriting samples of suspects they were trying to dig up and try to, they were kind of trying to do some sleuthing on her own. But she also told me that after the Zodiac stuff had died down, that he had moved on when he started doing the Voices of Guns book that he worked on with that other author. They wrote that book about the SLA. He was totally into that, and he was kind of like didn't even want to, didn't even talk about Zodiac much after that. He just kind of moved on to the next thing, and he didn't really talk a whole lot about it anymore. After the Halloween card and everything died down, he was kind of on to the next thing. I mean, he was always looking for the next big story break. So he did not dwell on Zodiac the rest of his life at all. I mean, he moved on. I don't know, Brant. It's a good question. Do you think Zodiac was inspired by Bates' correspondence as a style? That's good. That's a good point. I don't know. That's possible for sure. But he says, what about the ending of the Yuba 5 story? Are you talking about the podcast? I think they just put the last one out Wednesday, so it's not over yet. So I don't know where they're gonna wind up, but I know that Shannon said that after you, I don't. It's not. I think there's still going to be two more. I don't remember because I saw the one that came out Wednesday. I don't know if there's been a second one. Yes, Captain J. Gary Matthias is still missing. He's presumed dead, but they've never found him. Never found his remains. So I think it should be. I think there's two more, buddy. I'm not sure. I think there's two more because I know there was one that came out Wednesday. I think they're only doing one a week, which is kind of wish they would do two or three a week. It's really good though. They put some great work into that. Actually, after those come out, I'm gonna have Jackie Hewitt's family on. They reached out to me. I talked to Jackie Hewitt's family for a while. Actually, his brother and his sister-in-law a long time, and they know a lot. And they might be watching now because they follow me. They're great people, the Hewitts, and definitely want to. So Jackie Hewitt's dad comes off like a really good dude. Yes, he does. Absolutely, he does. And unfortunately, he passed away. And what's so sad is Jackie's mom. I mean, she was just. I mean, hearing this from his brother on the phone. I was talking to Jackie Hewitt's younger brother on the phone about their mom and how their mom was after he went missing, and when they found his remains, she was suicidal. She was literally suicidal, and they told the family members to take her out for long walks and to never leave her alone. That's how bad she was. She just wanted to die. She couldn't deal with it. It was so bad. I mean, when you're hearing from somebody's brother tell you that about their mom, I mean, that's it's so heartbreaking. I can't even process it. But I'm gonna have them on. I'm gonna have the Ewits on pretty soon. I just want to get my laptop and make it look right because I want to have it all done right. But it's crazy. Don's military record photo was amazing. Thanks. Yeah, there's some more on here. I just wanted to confirm the height, which is, there's no shoe size, unfortunately. You know what I'm talking about, but height is here, hair brown, stuff like that. Scores on test. I can tell you 3 out of the 4 were almost perfect. I can't. What is that? I don't know if they called it ASVAB back then about those whatever those scores are. I know you have to pass those to even get into the Air Force. These tests that you have to take, but mechanical was a 95, general was a 95, electric was 95, and then there's subgroups into all those little things of the different disciplines you learn. But the scores are very high, and you have a highly intelligent guy, no doubt about it. And that's all here. So really, really wasn't easy to get. When you they had to have some, I had to pay some people to get it basically to go find the record because going through the you know, regular front doorway on the internet through the National Archives, good luck. I mean, especially if it's a harder record to find, they'll send your check back. They won't dig for it. You got to find people that know how to go find those records. So it was cool to get it. I do have it posted over on my other channel, but I'll see. I'll see what I can do. Definitely see what I can do. But that's basically some of the highlights, other than some of these Air Force bases and stuff. One was Lackland, which I didn't know. I thought he was only at Harlingen, but he was at Lackland for a while. And then a brief time at a couple in California, Hamilton Air Force Base. Um, I think that's the one in Red Bluff AFS. I guess that's another Air Force base. Red Bluff is one for a while. So some different Air Force bases for sure. Look up Michael Butterfield's podcast A to Z for me. That was the last word on Zodiac stuff. He had a phenomenal 2-part episode on Zodiac's influences. I need to no, I haven't heard that one. I haven't. How old is it? I definitely want to check that out. Find anything out about the Don Paul connection with the Sierra Club? There has to be something there. I don't know about Sierra Club. Are you talking about Bakersfield Junior College? That's the connection they have. You might be talking about Bakersfield Junior College. I don't know if they have a connection to the Sierra Club at all. Either one. Um, I can certainly ask Paul Avery's daughter if he did. I don't know about Don, but they definitely were crossing paths at Bakersfield Junior College because that was a small world back then. And his daughter actually had never seen the two yearbook photos of her dad from the Bakersfield Junior College yearbook, so she was happy to see those. She hadn't seen them before, and she knew that he went to he was in school for a little while at Bakersfield Junior College, and that was right before Paul Avery met her mother, and she was or started dating her mother, and got married pretty young. Yeah, Ranchek puts up some good stuff, no doubt about it. I wish Ranchek would look at it. I mean, if I'm wrong about the Fortran stuff and the ciphers that Tony and I came up with, even if I'm wrong, I'd love Dave Ranchek to look at that. I mean, because he's a computer guy, and obviously Jarl Van Eck's a computer guy, to look at that because a lot of those misspelled words in the ciphers are Fortran commands. That's all. I mean, maybe they come up randomly because I'm not a cipher guy, but it looks fairly compelling. Some of those words as Fortran commands. I mean, I just wish that'd be looked at. I'm not going to like go in 100% on that. I'm not going to put it in a book. But when you're doing stuff like this and talking to people and trying to find new things, why not put it out there? Let people judge it for what it is. But if he looked at it, I'd take his word for it. He said, "No, man, that's just how that random stuff comes up." Okay, I'll move on. But it would be cool if he could look at that and say, "No, maybe." Because a lot of the misspelled words, when Tony and I looked at a lot of them, were Fortran commands. So maybe I don't know. I mean, there's really weird words like I can't even remember them all, but we came up with like 15 or so of the misspelled words being Fortran commands, and not many. Hardly anyone would have known the computer program Fortran in the early '70s. Very few. So that'd be cool. So somebody in computers look at that for me. Actually, I might make a list. I want to put on a list of all those misspelled zodiac words, mainly in the ciphers. There's some in the letters, but mainly in the ciphers that look like Fortran commands. I mean, there was two or three that were like some that were like even 2-word commands that were in zodiac misspelled words. How long in Chain ALA friends? According to Chain, well, they were friends from 62 up until whichever timeline you want to go with, either 62 to New Year's Day 68 or New Year's Day 69. So 5, 6 years. Oh, yeah, I was going to mention that. Russ says, hey, Drew Manny said he thinks Son of Sam letter was written with the light board. Wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting. I'd be stunned if Berkowitz had a light board. I wonder why he thinks that. Find out, Ross. I want to know. Are you going to have Manny on? That'd be really cool. Oh, you're talking about my bad, Restless Dreams. You went to Sierra Club card. Has to be some connection there. Yeah, I'll ask her. I'll ask her tonight. I mean, she might not get back to me to tomorrow or the next day, but I'll ask her, see if he had anything to do with that. Because I mean, Paul Avery is definitely not a mountainous hiking type guy. She'll be the first to tell you that. Although Don was, Don loved the mountains. I mean, honeymoon at the Devil's Postpile National Monument, went big time game hunter. So Don was obviously into the I'm sure into national parks, hunting, all that kind of thing, but not Paul. I mean, Paul Avery was going around with a cigarette and an oxygen tank, so he probably didn't do much of that stuff at all. But there could have been a connection. I'll ask her. Maybe she knows. That would be really, really interesting. I will see if she knows something there. But yeah, sorry, I didn't catch what you were talking about the Sierra Club. Patty says, Drew, will you talk about the astrology, celestial navigation, changing zodiac connection sometime? Yeah. Michael Cole's the one that first talked about the celestial navigation stuff because he was trying to. This is before his books came out because he already had a website called Zodiac Revisited. Everybody knew he was working on this. He put out the 3 books. I never talked to Michael Cole. Actually, I reached out to him a couple times, never heard back from him. And who knows? Maybe I had the wrong email or something. I have nothing against the guy. The books are great. Even I bought the 3rd book. I know most of what's the other ones, but the 3rd was really good. Bought that one, and his theory was that the Zodiac was trying to line up the crimes with the solstices, and that he must have known celestial navigation because he was, trying as close as he could to commit the murders on these solstices. And of course, when you read his book Zodiac Revisited, he talks all about having to murder that person on that particular radian. And then, of course, you bring in the Tim Holt Wheel of Death. So he wanted to use a knife on this particular radian. It's different than the Gareth Penn theory. It's where he was a certain radian coming off of Mount Diablo for each crime. I can't remember exactly, but it's different than Gareth Penn's thing that was wrong, by the way. But that's Cole's theory. But anyway, he thought the Zodiac most likely had celestial navigation training, and this is something you can't teach yourself. To know how to do all that. Of course, the Zodiac did put the compass rose on top of Mount Diablo, which meant that he knew the difference between magnetic north and true north. So it looked like he definitely had celestial navigation training, which Don Chaney did, of course, at Harlingen Air Force Base. They had what they called night cell, which is, when you're trained as a navigator, you definitely have celestial navigation training. So I thought, hey, Michael, what do you think? And of course, he doesn't have a suspect or anything like that. In fact, he thinks, one thing Michael Cole also talked about was how the Zodiac must have known autos really well. Well, a lot of guys knew autos pretty well back then, but I think Ned interviewed Michael Cole, and it wasn't on the Zodiac Killer channel. I think it was offline on a phone call, and he said, well, Drew said Cheney has celestial navigation training, and he was also the president of the Automobile Engineers Society at Cal Poly Pomona. And I think Cole said something like, well, I don't think Zodiac would have ever been able to be the head of a club or anything like that because this guy's too far back in the shadows or something like that. I'm like, really? It was like a weak answer, dude. Sorry, Michael. I thought that was weak. That's ridiculous. Zodiac wouldn't have ever led a club. Come on. That's crazy. And you know what? You're talking about Michael Cole, too. And I'm not getting down on the guy. The book's great. I mean, his theories are great. I think he's on to something for sure about the angles and all that. I think he's dead on. But Michael Cole attributes, I think, every crime except for Ray Davis he believes was Zodiac. I mean, all of them. Donna Lass, of course, Sherry Joe Bates. Every single one of them he believes Kathleen Johns was absolutely Zodiac activity. And if Michael Cole truly believes that Kathleen Johns is a Zodiac victim, of course, she jumped out of the car. She wasn't killed. She was pregnant and jumped out with her younger daughter. If you believe that, Kathleen Johns said that she saw young children's clothes in the car from the man that she took a ride with that was threatening to kill her, who she later identified as the Zodiac. She said there was young children's clothes in the car. So if he wasn't a kid's clothes salesman, that means he had young children. And go look at all the Zodiac suspects out there and tell me how many of them had young children at the time. Okay, I'll just leave that one there. The ABC Murder book really wrapped it up for me with Don. Thank you. Really appreciate that. I definitely had some help out there with developing that from someone that read that book a while back and reread it for me. So I really appreciate that. And pointed out a lot of the things to me that I didn't know, but fortunately I knew somebody that read that book and said, man, there is a lot here that, not just because the waitress, of course, connection, the taunting letters, which never really existed before. And Don always says, he says the little book. Everything always has to be lit. There's always a preference. There's always a word behind it. The little darlings, like Zodiac, the little darlings as they come bouncing out. Zodiac said little kitties. And it's funny when Panzarella repeats that line, and his name was Arthur Allen. Panzarella gets it right and says little kitties, and Don says little darlings. It's like he's trying to, trying to change it a little bit. He knows what it is. It's little kitties, as Zodiac said. I should Bible group. I should definitely continue with ABC. I think there could be some more there, but there's a lot there already. There's so much with ABC murders and just the way that comes up. A little list, yes, a little list from the Mikado, a little list, little book. I mean, ABC Murders is not what I would call a small book. I mean, I'd say probably normal size. I mean, depending on how it comes. I mean, it's just there's always has to be this little word in front of it. Like Zodiac, I'm mildly curious. Why isn't he just curious? He's mildly curious. It's always these little qualified words in front of it. Little book, little list, mildly curious. There's just some slip of the tongue. How about that one? Slip of the tongue. Concerned citizen. I do not wish to reveal my name as it could be revealed by a slip of the tongue. Who else uses that phrase? Yeah, I should definitely do some more on ABC and a little more on some of this other stuff. But yeah, there's definitely working on that for sure. Another thing going back to Kathleen Johns. When Cheney's in his name was Arthur Lee Allen, he brings that whole thing up about what Sandy Panzarella calls RF, and you know what that means, that Arthur Lee Allen wanted to do to people about loosening up the lug nuts on the wheel. It's important to know when that was first brought up. When did Cheney first bring that up? I mean, did that come up before that happened to Kathleen Johns? Who knows? Or just hears about it later, and then he said, "Oh, of course, Arthur Lee Allen talked about that." That's interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it, uh, Cheney, go watch His Name Was Arthur Lee Allen again. You can't watch that video enough. Just keep watching that video and just really study him and see why he says what he says. But in there, he's talking about how Arthur Lee Allen would go, screw people over, and he was going to go find he says it was never going to be a man. It was always going to be a girl. Notice how he goes from man to girl. We know that Zodiac called his victims kids or boy and girl, and Cheney goes from he's never going to do this to a man because man might fight back. He was going to do it to a girl. Well, Kathleen Johns was a woman. She was pregnant and had a young daughter with her at the time. But it's interesting that Cheney brings up Kathleen Johns because he's throwing so much at Allen, and Kathleen Johns was never even a verified event. It's not a canonical Zodiac attack whatsoever. I mean, she didn't die, but it's even at the time that he did that, Kathleen Johns, I don't even think she's 50-50. I mean, she's not even as strong as Sherry Joe Bates, but he feels the need to bring that up about how Allen wanted to loosen the lug nuts up on the car. I mean, really, if he's doing this for revenge, he's doing that video. It's filmed in 2006, comes out in 2007. Allen's been dead since 1992. Why is he doing this if it's for revenge? The man's been dead well over a decade, and he's going to even bring up Kathleen Johns. I mean, think about it. Definitely check that out. What's the name of that show I'm doing? I can't even remember. I'm gonna have to post it. I hadn't heard of it before, but it supposedly has a good audience. And they want to do DB Cooper, and I'll probably do a little bit of Yuba County 5, maybe some Zodiac, but they want to do DB Cooper first. So that'll be cool. So definitely look out for that if I can remember what the dang name of it is. Do you ever know if Don ever passed a course called ME 370 in college or Cal Poly Pomona? Because I think ME 370 is a course in mechanical engineering. Uh, well, he was studying mechanical engineering at Cal Poly Pomona, so I would assume he had them all. He actually didn't graduate from Cal Poly Pomona. He only had one more final thing to do, like a class, and he just didn't do it. I guess back then you didn't need to. That wasn't totally uncommon to do that. It had all the requirements, but it just if you were already trained to do something like that, that's all you really needed. They didn't really put a whole lot into did you actually get your diploma or not back then. No, like back then, my uncle dropped out of college early and just went straight to law school and got a bar license. But I don't know about that 370. But he probably had every mechanical engineering course at Cal Poly Pomona. I mean, he did finish all the coursework. I think it was just some final something he didn't turn in. That part where he says that ALA bounced back and forth between past and future tense was super suspicious. Yes. I pointed that out. I think because in his mind, and only the killer could do that, he realizes when he's telling this story that about Arthur Lee Allen taking him to Blue Rock Springs Park. And remember, when Tom Voigt interviewed him, he said he'd never heard of Blue Rock Springs Park. And then when he's being interviewed years later, and his name was Arthur Lee Allen, he tells the story of Arthur Lee Allen driving him to Blue Rock Springs Park. And years earlier, he said he never heard of Blue Rock Springs Park. Which is it? But yeah, that one is really interesting. Just yeah, watch that. Watch how he acts because he catches himself. He realizes he's talking about Lake Herman Road, which has already happened. You know why? That's so great to even bring that up because you know why he makes that mistake was that he's still getting used to the fact that he moved his timeline up a year. He had to move that timeline up a year. And when he does that, it creates new problems like that. So in his mind, part of his original story when he went forward with Allen was that Arthur Lee Allen took him, New Year's Day, the watch, blah, 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 but it was on New Year's Day 68. Well, of course, New Year's Day 68, Lake Herman Road hasn't happened yet. That doesn't happen until December 20th, 1968. So that's much later in the year. It's almost a whole year later. So when he moves that timeline up a year, it screws him up. So when he's telling that story about we drove over to Blue Rock Springs Park, and then Arthur Leon told me what he was going to do to some couple there, and then we came back around to Lake Herman Road, and then he told me what he wanted to do to some girl there, and it wasn't pretty. And then he catches himself. Wait a minute, this crime's already happened now because I moved my timeline to New Year's Day 1969. So now Lake Herman Road was 10 days earlier than this story. So he has to pivot really quick and say, and then he seemed to want to linger there. And I kept thinking that what he was telling me had already happened. And he was speaking in the past tense. This is nonsense. He catches himself because he realizes that he's telling a story about Arthur Lee Allen driving him to a crime scene where a crime had happened just 10 days earlier. So like I said before, there's no tape there anymore. We're talking about just 10 days later at Lake Herman Road. And of course, Cheney hadn't heard in the news that a young couple was married there. Of course, they're, high school students at the time, but he would have heard it. That news was everywhere when Faraday and Jensen were murdered at Lake Herman Road. And he's standing there at the same site where they were killed 10 days earlier. And there's no flowers, no nothing. I mean, yeah, go back and watch that part. Cheney wasn't your suspect. How likely are you to view Dennis Land, the park ranger, as a suspect in Lake Berryessa? I don't know. I mean, obviously, that's Professor Horn's guess on Lake Berryessa with Dennis Land. I'll be the first to admit that it was very strange that Dennis Land removed the crime scene from Lake Berryessa. He took the blanket and everything off, everything on it back to the ranger station, which is highly bizarre. I don't know why anyone would have done that. It's like when I think I don't know if it's Dave Collins or one of the other officers showed up. They were like, we went to go see the crime scene and it was gone because Dennis Lamb picked up the blanket and moved all that stuff. So I think that it's kind of suspicious. But Dennis Lamb went on to work as a park ranger at Lake Berryessa for another 20 years or so. I don't know the exact amount, but a long, long time. And then also when Brian Hartnell got picked up by Dennis Land, Hartnell never said the guy sounded like him or Denver picked up on anything too. So I don't know. I mean, that's what Tom likes. Yeah, Captain J. Dennis Land can't be Zodiac Brian Cecilia would have recognized him. I know Brian certainly didn't didn't say a word about it when he picked him up. And I've only seen one photo with Dennis Lamb when he was in the military. He has his hat on. He doesn't look stocky at all. I don't know his height. I don't know any particulars really about him. I know he was gay, from what I'm told. I'm not saying that plays anything into it, but that's what I know about him. Midnight Dreams Talk Radio. Thank you, Patty. Yes, that's the name of that show, Midnight Dreams Talk Radio show on March 30th. Does Joe D'Angelo have any merit as a suspect? I don't think so. I don't think Joe D'Angelo has really any merit as a Zodiac suspect. I really don't. I know Ann Penn wrote a book about that. I don't think he has any. I know Joe D'Angelo has some ties to Tulare, California, and I think I'm pronouncing that right for the first time. Where Paul Stein is from originally, and he had some ties there. And I think that's the only thing I really know about Joe D'Angelo having any even far out connection to Zodiac. He was kind of young to be the Zodiac. I've seen photos of him back when he was younger. He was fit. He was a police officer. He was a fit guy. He wasn't. Wouldn't call him stocky or skinny. He was just pretty fit. But D'Angelo was one sadistic bastard from hell. He's a sadistic bastard from hell. Zodiac was not sadistic. I mean, he didn't rape anybody. He didn't torture anyone. He didn't. It was bad. He's a murderer, yes, but he wasn't some sick. I think they called D'Angelo a power killer, power rapist. Just this ultra aggressive. I mean, D'Angelo was just a demon from hell. I mean, Zodiac is bad. Don't get me wrong. It's really bad. I mean, yes, he killed people, but D'Angelo is a different breed of. I don't think that was an evolving D'Angelo either. I really don't. And I haven't seen anything in D'Angelo's background to even look like Zodiac to me. Restless Dreams. Dennis Land thing is so ridiculous. If he was the Zodiac, why wouldn't he destroy the crime scene right after stabbing the couple? Why did he do it later? Yeah, that's a good point. And why would he? I don't know. It's just the whole thing's weird because he definitely stayed on as a park ranger for like another 20 years. I only seen one photo of Dennis Land. I think it's like he's got his military hat on. Looks, it's just, I think it's waist up. I've never seen a full photo of him, and yeah, I don't know. And when they interviewed the park ranger, William White was his name, the other park ranger that was at Berryessa that wasn't as close to it, obviously, as Dennis Land. He's interviewed at just a video on YouTube where I think it's William White, the park ranger. He's describing what he heard the Zodiac look like. I guess came from Brian's description. He describes a big guy, a stocky guy, and Dennis Land does not look big or stocky to me whatsoever. D'Angelo got off on terrifying his victims by making terrifying calls to their house. Besides a few disputed calls, Z was never known to do that. True. I mean, D'Angelo was just a demon. He went to that community meeting where they had that big meeting. They were going to talk about how they were going to, like some crime meeting for the whole community where like 200 or 300 people showed up to talk about it. I think it was the East Area rapist going around, and a guy stood up at the meeting and said, if this guy comes across my house, I'm going to kill this guy or something like that. D'Angelo uh, zoned in on that guy, found out who he was, came over there, raped the guy's wife, killed him, I think. I mean, this guy was just bad. He was not the Zodiac. Just there's nothing going on. Oh, Patty says it's night dreams, not midnight dreams. Yeah, you're thinking of Midnight at the Oasis, Art Bell's song. But yeah, night dreams. See, I should remember that. So that's why I'm, not enough sleep. Captain J, they should have checked that sheath and knife for blood. Missed opportunity. It's true. Yeah, that's a good. That's very true. I've seen the autopsy report. Said a knife with a foot long blade. Well, they couldn't check the sheath and knife. They were gone. Obviously, he took it with him. But you mean, I don't know what knife. Yeah, I mean, Zodiac took the knife with him. Obviously, there was not left there. I think the only thing left there was they found a green. I think it was a green bottle, and it's a couple other small items that they took in. But no, Zodiac took the knife with him. I think he put it back in the sheath and walked off. He didn't leave that knife there. But by the autopsy report, it looked like a really sharp knife. Would love to if that knife was left. Absolutely, that would have been huge. Because going back to the knife from Blake Berryessa, I think Hartnell said it looked like there was tape around it. Like there was tape around the handle, like something like friction tape that you'd see on a tennis racket. I can't remember that's from, but the handle was taped, I believe. Yeah, you were thinking of that song. Get that camel to bed. Art Bell. So that's it for the updates. Nikki, if you've watched this later, if you're on, let's do a DB Cooper money burial uh, video, and maybe we'll reveal who George is to the DB Cooper case, because only the hardcore DB Cooper people know who George is and his possible role in the caper, and that would be fun to talk about George. I think we can talk about George. It'd be fun. So I'm definitely going to try to tee that up. And yeah, that's it. So midnight No, Night Dreams. Night Dreams. There's a website. I'll put it out because they haven't even announced me yet. I think I probably will tomorrow, but it's going to be Cooper or hopefully some Yuba County 5 stuff. So Night Dreams. And then I'll definitely, yeah, you want to hear about George too. You too. Thank you, Restless Dreams. Everybody have a good week. Yeah, I'll try to do something soon, maybe with Nikki, and we'll talk about the money drop. So everybody have a good night. Thanks for tuning in.